Welcome beautiful Paris Saint-Germain family, and in today's video I'll be looking at Luis Enrique and how he would fit in at Paris Saint-Germain, and obviously I'll be looking at every single report because Luis Enrique to Paris Saint-Germain is very imminent. After Nagelsmann was thrown out from Paris Saint-Germain headquarters, it's Luis Enrique's name that has been recently been talked about in the Paris Saint-Germain headquarters, and according to reports he actually has an agreement with Paris Saint-Germain. First of all, let's look at the report. Luis Enrique has accepted the PSG job. He wants Paris Saint-Germain. Discussions are very advanced, but it's not done yet. They are still discussing about the coaching staff and still awaiting on the final details for it to be sealed. According to Fabrizio Romano. From Le Parisien, an agreement has been found between Luis Enrique and PSG. Only a few contractual details remain to be settled. The duration of his contract, they are talking about 2 years, as well as the outline of his staff. Luis Enrique will be the next PSG coach. There is an agreement between both parties in Doha. Luis Enrique is considered the ideal candidate to lead Paris, according to Andy Andrubia. From L'Equipe, Luis Enrique will sign with PSG in the coming days. He is expected to sign for 2 seasons plus an additional 1 year as an option, and does not imagine his time at PSG in a short-term vision. Obviously, Galtier also signed with a 2+1, but that literally doesn't mean anything. And it looks like Luis Enrique is 100% the new Paris Saint-Germain manager, because even Nagelsmann, they never talked about a contract. They never came to that final detail because Nagelsmann was never going to become the Paris Saint-Germain manager. And here, Luis Enrique plans to sign for 2 years plus an optional 1 year with Paris Saint-Germain. Luis Enrique would like to have his say on the recruitments this summer. Having his say the transfer window was one of the prerequisites for his arrival. In midfield, the current squad may not meet Enrique's demand. In midfield, so this is our midfield at the moment: Marco Verratti, Fabian Ruiz, Danilo Pereira, Vitinha, Renato Sanchez, Carlos Soler, Kang In-lee, and Manuel Ugarte. And as we all know, Carlos Soler, Renato Sanchez, and maybe Fabian will all leave Paris Saint-Germain this summer. We'll also have the youngster Warren Zaire-Emery, who can pop in for some minutes here and there, but according to that report, Luis Enrique sees the midfield as too weak for his standards, so some new midfield recruitments would be added, and I think every PSG fan would agree that our midfield is our weakest point. And according here from PSG community, Luis Enrique is aware of the talent present at the training center and will keep a close eye on their development. Obviously, we have Bichiabo, Warren Zaire-Emery, Ismail Gharbi, Ilyas Husni, and Lucas Levy, who have all in the pretty much the first team. And gotten some minutes here and there, but it will be very interesting what he does with them. I would love a loan for Ilyas Husni, Ilshadile Bichiabo, and Ismail Gharbi. I believe Warren Zaire-Emery is the only player that can really get some minutes in this squad, especially from the interest from Pep Guardiola, the Manchester City manager. So it would be very interesting how he uses the youth at Paris Saint-Germain, even though he didn't use them that much at FC Barcelona. Lucho could keep some elements of Galtier's staff, in particular the goalkeeper coach, much of the performance department, and some video analysis. It may also be that Campos is looking to keep João Sacramento, who he imposed on Galtier. That is a very great thing to read because João Sacramento is an incredible assistant manager, obviously previously worked with Jose Mourinho as well, and it would be great to keep him because he's a multilingual assistant that can speak French, Spanish, Italian, and I believe German as well, so he would be really nice to keep there and as assistant. And here Luis Enrique absolutely wants to keep Marco Verratti, and Neymar remains a subject of disagreement, but Enrique hopes he stays as well. He also wishes to have Harry Kane in the squad, with Bernardo Silva, Lucas Hernandez, Lee Kang-in, and Marcos Thuram being unanimous. It's not certain that Luis Enrique will validate the departure of Neymar, according to L'Equipe, and I mean, this is very understandable. Even though they did not have a perfect relationship at Barca, obviously Luis Enrique would want to keep a player like Neymar Jr. with his qualities. Neymar, when he plays, when he's on the pitch, he's always been a top 3, even sometimes competing for the best player in the world when he's on the pitch. And obviously Luis Enrique would love to keep Neymar Jr. at Paris Saint-Germain. Obviously, Neymar under Luis Enrique was a huge player, especially in the Champions League when they won the treble in 14-15 season. Neymar was crucial and has always been crucial for Luis Enrique's sides. And one interesting thing is when Neymar left Barca, that was the same season that Luis Enrique left. Very interesting. Another player obviously is Marco Verratti. Luis Enrique, according to those reports, already sees the Paris Saint-Germain midfield as weak, and if we somehow lose Marco Verratti or Campos sells him, Luis Enrique would be furious. So Marco Verratti is staying put at Paris Saint-Germain. So don't believe and listen to any other report that comes out. And lastly, about the players that he would want in, it was Marcus Thuram, it was Kang In-lee, Lucas Hernandez, Bernardo Silva, and Harry Kane. And in the meantime, before we have announced Luis Enrique, we're pretty much 85% done with Marcus Thuram. We're just waiting for his decision between AC Milan, Paris Saint-Germain, and RB Leipzig, but he already has an agreement with Paris Saint-Germain when it comes to wages and everything, so it's all about him making a decision now. Kang In-lee obviously is a Paris Saint-Germain player 100%. He still hasn't been announced by the club, but he's had his medical and everything is concluded. Lucas Hernandez has told Bayern München he wants to leave Bayern only for Paris Saint-Germain, so all that's left now is a negotiation between PSG and Bayern for the price of Lucas Hernandez. Bernardo Silva, on the other hand, 60% player, wants to join Paris Saint-Germain but hasn't told or tried to pressure City to sell him, and PSG and City have to find a price to negotiate on. And lastly, Harry Kane, only 25%. I mean, Spurs, they want to sell him abroad. His agent Pini Zahavi wants him to go to Paris Saint-Germain, but that's pretty much it. Harry Kane wants to stay in the Premier League, so it would be very hard to attract Harry Kane, even though Nasser and Luis Enrique would love to have the player at Paris Saint-Germain. And lastly, he absolutely wants to keep Verratti. Neymar remains a point of disagreement by Luis Campos, so we will stay tuned. Despite it hopes that his staff will follow him in his adventure in Paris, Luis would like to have a francophone with him as an assistant. Is Sacramento count as a francophone? I mean, he speaks French. He's not French native, but speaks French, and he could obviously take in a cheeky Blaise Matuidi, a former Paris Saint-Germain player as well. That would be very interesting and very nice to see. But it looks likely it will be Sacramento who will be the francophone assistant for Luis Enrique for next season. And this is the last report. Just seeing PSG expect to seal the agreement with Luis Enrique this week. The Spaniard has already accepted the job. Talks will enter into the final stages in the next 24 to 48 hours. So an announcement of Enrique, or at least a confirmation of Luis Enrique becoming the new Paris Saint-Germain manager, should come in the coming 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 days. Pretty much in this week, I believe Luis Enrique will be announced as the new Paris Saint-Germain manager, and Christophe Galtier will be announced to have been sacked by Paris Saint-Germain. But let's look at how Luis Enrique lined up the Barca. I think it's a bit bad to compare his Spain side, where he can't buy anyone. He has certain kind of players and really can't do everything he wants to do. So I thought let's go back to his 14-15 up until 16-17 Barca teams and compare them to how they could line up at Paris Saint-Germain. In the 14-15 and 15-16 season, he played a 4-3-3, and in the 16-17 season, he sometimes experimented with a 3-4-3, which is really great to hear, because that's what we played last season. A 3-4-3 could look like this. A 4-3-3 could look like this. There are many different variations he could play. He could play a 4-2-3-1 with Ugarte, Verratti as the pivot, Neymar there in the center, Silva and Mbappe on the wings, and Harry Kane up top. He could also play a more inward formation without wingers, Bernardo, Neymar, Verratti, Ugarte, creating a four-man box there in the middle with Harry Kane and Mbappe as the outlets, and obviously Hakimi and Mendes pushing up as the fullbacks. We could also potentially see Marco Verratti playing as the deepest player, because Luis Enrique is a position manager and would like to have a player that's amazing with the ball, which is Marco Verratti, and you can add in a Kang In-lee or a Vitinha there in the midfield. Or a more of a 4-3-3, Verratti as the 6. Obviously, you can put Ugarte there. You can put Verratti instead of Neymar if Neymar is not available. Silva, Neymar midfield with Asensio and Mbappe on the wings and Kane up top. That could work as well. And obviously, lastly, the 3-4-3. You put in a Lucas Hernandez there as a third centre-back, and you remove Neymar. Obviously, you can put Neymar as a false 9. Maybe Luis Enrique will try him on the right side. It would be really interesting to see what Luis Enrique would do at Paris Saint-Germain. But these are all options and alternatives he could try out. One other important thing was his attacking fullbacks. He obviously loved to use Dani Alves and Jordi Alba to their absolute best, and that's exactly what could happen at Paris Saint-Germain. This is a 4-3-3 where Hakimi and Mendes just pushing up, and Ugarte, Verratti, Marquinhos and Skriniar take all the defensive positions. It could also look like this with interchanges, Hakimi and Mendes pushing up as the furthest wingers with Silva and Mbappe and Neymar in the center, Ugarte taking Hakimi's position when he attacks, because that's what he did with Pedro Porro at Sporting Lisbon, and Verratti taking up Nuno Mendes' positions there on the left side when Nuno Mendes pushes up, Marquinhos and Skriniar obviously staying in the back. And the last thing is, he had obviously a trident at Barca and wanted to get best out of the trident. Doesn't really have a trident at the moment at Paris Saint-Germain, but that's maybe what he will try to create havoc with Mbappe, Neymar, Bernardo Silva and Harry Kane up top, or he will try something different. And this is all very interesting to see. So that's been it pretty much. Luis Enrique to Paris Saint-Germain. I've went through every single report, everything that could potentially happen in the upcoming 2 to 5 days of this week. That's been it. Let me know in the comments down below if anything you got interesting that would be a negative or a positive thing here for Luis Enrique at Paris Saint-Germain. That's been it. And as usual, allez Paris.